For several years now, there has been a significant upward trend in the populations of black bears across the United States. Several states have added hunting seasons. Several states that already had hunting seasons have added more tags to increase the harvest. Some states are seeing black bear populations get established that haven't had bears for decades or even a century. So what's behind all this expansion of black bear populations? Well, nobody really knows for sure, but we do know that there are some factors that seem to be contributing to this, and I'm going to go into that in a few minutes. But first of all, let's talk about the expansion itself. In my home state of Minnesota, there's a traditional black bear range where you have to apply for a tag to hunt a bear. And then there's the outside of the traditional range where you can just hunt bears with a bear hunting license. And believe it or not, in the last several years, the bear harvest is actually higher outside of the traditional bear range than it is within the traditional bear range. So bears are expanding their range and their population, their numbers, and the area in which bears live throughout Minnesota. The same thing's happening in Michigan and Wisconsin and Missouri and Arkansas and Tennessee and Kentucky and throughout the southern United States. Missouri just added a bear hunting season for the first time in modern history. The state of Iowa now has a bill in the legislature to create game animal status for black bears, because right now you can shoot black bears indiscriminately. If a farmer sees a bear around his livestock or whatever, he can just shoot it. As bears have got a population established in the state of Iowa, they need to be protected so they can be managed and harvested responsibly. There's expansions in populations across the eastern United States and the south. Louisiana is a good example. There's more bears in Mississippi and Georgia right now. Florida just started a bear hunting season to get the population under control. New Jersey is now hunting bears. Bear populations are expanding across the United States and even in the West. It's estimated that the bear population has tripled in California, for example. More bears in Washington and Oregon and across the Rocky Mountains. The state of Colorado just reduced the price of non-resident bear tags and give people the opportunity to shoot 2 bears instead of 1 to try to get the bear population under control. While these states are instituting bear seasons and adding more tags, this is particularly pronounced across the upper Midwest. I mentioned Minnesota, which has added more bear tags in the last few years. Wisconsin now, for this year, has instituted the highest number of bear tags available that they've ever had. In Michigan, the population used to be limited mostly to the UP. Now all of northern Michigan and the population is working its way south. There's more and more bears in Michigan. So, what's going on with all these bears? Well, I had an interesting conversation with the bear biologist in Minnesota about this, and I have a theory, and I ran it past him, and he agrees that this is very likely what's going on in some of the cases. For example, this is happening in the states that allow bear baiting, and they use bear baiting as a management tool to harvest bears. 20 to 25 years ago, I started bear hunting 25 years ago, and most people were putting out things like stale bread and table scraps for the bears when they're baiting bears, but the whole landscape of bear baiting has changed. People have figured out there's some really important strategies to actually getting a bear to come to the bait in the daylight. And most people don't realize that baiting bears is actually a very difficult way to harvest bears. But in the boreal forest regions of most of the U.S., where baiting is used as a management tool, it's extremely difficult to harvest any significant numbers of the expanding bear population without the use of bait. But these days, bear hunters are using really high quality foods like trail mix and granola, and they're feeding these bears things that really meet the bear's nutritional needs, and they've learned that these really high quality foods help them have a chance to harvest a bear. And what it's doing is it's causing the bears to go into the den with more fat on them and in better condition, and the sows are actually having more cubs. In Minnesota, for example, the number of cubs per sow is almost 3, when 20 years ago you rarely saw a bear with more than 2. Now 2.7 and above is the average. The same thing has taken place in Michigan and Wisconsin and Maine and New Hampshire. So part of the population increase is actually caused by the quality of food that's available to them. Now, a lot of people would like to point to the fact that we're having milder winters. We've had a long string of mild winters, and there's all kind of political aspects to why that might be happening. I'm not going to go into that, but the fact is we've had these mild winters, which some people would theorize then that that would cause an expanding bear population, which may have some merit in the northern states. But then why is the bear population expanding in Florida and throughout the southeast, Arkansas, Missouri, where these bears a lot of times don't even hibernate at all? Same on the East Coast, where in the Carolinas the bear populations are expanding. And these bears typically, if they go into hibernation at all, it's for a very short period of time, and it's mostly the females that are going to have cubs that actually do hibernate. So I don't see how the mild winters can have a significant impact on the increase of the bear population. So another thing that we want to look at that could be associated with these mild winters, could there be more natural foods available? Are we seeing more berries? Are we seeing more mass crops like beech nuts and acorns and things like that that bears really rely on to put fat on for the winter? Maybe that's a part of this. So the other component that could be a part of the expansion of bear populations is the availability of habitat. And that'd be the first thing that you would look at and think, okay, if these bears are expanding, there must be more habitat. They got to expand into some kind of habitat. And that just doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, you'd say there could be potentially a net loss of bear habitat because of urban sprawl and expansion. If you're like me, you know a lot of places that used to be good habitat that are now a Walmart parking lot or a high-rise apartments or something like that. So it's pretty hard to say that it could be better habitat. So my theory on why this is happening is 2 factors. Number 1, I've already mentioned, is about the high-quality foods that are available to them. Number 2, I think the bears are simply adapting to what used to be marginal habitats. They're moving more out into farm country. That's obviously the case in Minnesota, where the harvest outside of the traditional bear range and in the areas where I guess you'd call them the forest fringe range, where the northern boreal habitat meets the farmland where there's crops and things like that. That's where more and more bears are being harvested, and that's where the bear population seems to be growing the most. So it doesn't seem like there's actually better habitat. It just seems like the bears are learning to adapt to the available habitat and move into areas that aren't traditional bear hunting areas. And that would explain things like why bears are moving into northern Missouri and northeast Iowa and southern Iowa. That would also explain why Kentucky and Tennessee have expanding bear populations. It would explain the expansion in the south into more agricultural areas. So yes, the bear populations across the continental United States are really expanding. The numbers are up more than ever, and it doesn't look like it's going to let up anytime soon, which is fantastic news for people who love the high quality protein that bear meat provides, and you want to have a bear rug on your wall. It's a great time to be a bear hunter and a bear enthusiast. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.